Good morning, everyone. Our chief guest, Dr. Henry Wampa, Governor of Central Bank of Ghana, our plenary chair and distinguished alumnus of AERC, Dr. Ernest Ayithi, Vice Chancellor of University of Ghana. Distinguished guests, friends of AERC, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 39th plenary session of the African Economic Research Consortium, which is actually featured along with the Biannual Research Workshop. The theme of the plenary today is public finance, tax and expenditure reforms in Africa. Let me begin by thanking the Governor for accepting our invitation to grace this occasion. Also, Vice Chancellor Ernest Ayithi and University of Ghana for partnering with us all the way through for this plenary as well as the Biannual Research Workshop. 6 months ago, we celebrated AERC's 25th year of anniversary. 25 years ago, economic decisions in Africa were being guided by heuristics, judgment, ideology, and importation of policy prescriptions from outside the continent. AERC capacity building framework came into existence to help change that. AERC has been in the business of capacity building in the advancement of research and training to inform economic policies in sub-Saharan Africa by bringing rigor and evidence to policy making. Now, in specific terms, that means enhanced capacity for conducting and generating policy-oriented research, enhanced capacity to perform policy analysis, and even enhancing capacity of other institutions, institutional capacity building, in addition to capacity building for individuals. Now, the impact of research in policymaking has manifested itself in a variety of ways over the last 25 years. And I'm going to just mention a few that I collected from collaborative research. So these are some of the examples of collaborative research that had made a difference in terms of policy impact. Poverty and growth projects informing country poverty reduction strategies, service delivery indicators done in partnership with the World Bank now has been applied to service delivery in education and health in a select group of African countries. The Senior Policy Seminar has become a forum for a two-day dialogue among senior policy makers, ministers of finance, central bank governors, and thought leaders based on AERC collaborative research. And the additional advantage of these forums is that we get feedback from these policy makers in guiding our research. Now, in the AERC paradigm, it's not just research that is informing policy, but also collaborative training programs, such as agriculture. AERC ventured into collaborative training programs inspired by the successful modalities already established for collaborative research. We have 2 master's collaborative programs, master's in economics and master's in agricultural economics, and then collaborative PhD program. A select group of AERC network universities collaborate on joint curriculum development, joint enforcement of standards, and also joint offerings of electives on joint facilities. So in the case of the agricultural economics masters, for instance, AERC is engaged in the advancement of capacity for agricultural policy research and analysis. And also engaged in strengthening the capacity of institutions, in this case, strengthening economics department so that they conform to global best practices. It turned out there's also a policy outreach through thesis dissemination in the CMA. My first observation of that was pleasantly remarkable. I was invited to open a thesis dissemination in Addis Ababa, and this is a dissemination of work done by ARC researchers based on data collected from farmers, and now they are ready to communicate that information back to farmers. And what I witnessed in that same room were farmers, extension workers, policymakers, even financial institutions basically downloading on the research that's conducted based on a smallholder database. So this notion of research meeting policy is not just related to just the research arm of the ARC. Now, these are exciting times for Africa. There are also exciting times for ARC. So ARC has been in existence long enough to witness long-term payoffs. Earlier, I mentioned to you about policy linkage of collaborative research, which is more of a short-term orientation. But we have also been in existence to witness long-term payoffs. I regard that informed policymaker is one of the key factors of production for this growth renaissance that we're actually witnessing in Africa. Thousands have been products of ARC research and collaborative training over the last 25 years. And you find them everywhere in Africa as policy analysts in central banks, treasuries, international institutions, and educators in various African universities, and even some doctoral students who have actually gone abroad as a result of capacity built in the training arena. So among the senior policy officials and institutional leaders are about, my last count, 10 current and former governors of central banks who have been among the most beneficiaries of ARC, and we regard them as our alumni. And in that group, I'm going to mention Ernest Ayiti, who does not need an introduction. Just to mention that he has been an ARC thematic researcher, ARC collaborative researcher, ARC resource person, and has been a chair of thematic track. You would then think that he has been engaged full-time with ARC, but that's not the case. He prospered into heading up the Brookings Africa Initiative Growth Initiative Program, and now Vice Chancellor of University of Ghana. An exemplary and role model alum of ARC. Ernest, we're proud of you.
Thank you.
And then these are some examples, by the way, of alums, distinguished alums that ARC produced over the years. And you see some familiar names over there, and I don't plan to go over. I mean, these are real cases. Now, moving forward, this is an organization which is highly successful, and the question is, what is next for it? So ARC has become a complex entity, by the way, through its innovative model with a multitude of products and huge network, and actually sometimes very hard to explain. I have had actually a challenge communicating what ARC is to those who continue to think that this is just a think tank. Fortunately, though, we get ranked very high among global think tanks, which include not just economics, but other disciplines, including security. We have moved up, for instance, to a third among African think tanks, the first two being domiciled in South Africa. However, if you actually segregate economics, we are #1 in Africa, and then we're among the top 20 global think tanks in the world in the global ranking. And then I did actually send out information recently that ARC also got maximum global transparency ranking. And somebody from Canada wrote back to me high up and saying that only one Canadian actually met that ranking. So while we should cherish such global rankings and recognition, we should also be aware that we are not just a think tank, but a think tank plus, with a variety of research and training products, and innovative policy outreach, and vast network. The range of things are hard to duplicate. Moving forward, we will capitalize on this richness and diversity to create greater value from synergy, particularly between research and training programs. And the 3 external evaluations that have recently been conducted independently have reaffirmed the need for integration. And integration is one of the pillars that we see in this picture. Now, consistent with this, an AERC alumni association has just been formed, which has the potential for a powerful, unified voice for African development through the best of AERC traditions. Now, the leaders of the steering group are this biennial to promote the alumni association drawn from various countries, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, CSA, Oxford, and so on. So more broadly, for our next strategy, integration, enhanced private sector engagement, more inclusiveness in capacity building, technology integration into all of AERC's operations, along with resource diversification, and a communication strategy that identifies value propositions for our differentiated and diverse stakeholders in this vast network. Now, in terms of resource diversity, I just wanted to footnote that this is a membership organization. So we have members like the World Bank, the Nordic countries, who are institutional directors, and we are in the process of changing that so that we can get enhanced African stakeholdership. Actually, the government of Kenya made history 3 months ago to become the first ever institutional director on the AERC board. So now we have actually been in communication with Nigeria, Ghana, Mozambique to basically to enhance diversity of stakeholdership. Now, let me single out one emerging initiative in my concluding remarks. It has to do with what I call inclusive capacity building. Let me give you a context for that. A couple of days ago, I was at a high-level policy conference. This conference was organized and hosted jointly by the IMF and the government of Mozambique. It attracted a huge contingent of policymakers, governors of central banks, ministers of finance, along with private sector actors from around the globe. Numerous media houses from the continent and outside the continent. And I was doing a plenary thing in one of those things. But what was remarkable was that the conversation about Africa rising that you keep on hearing is now changing into the conversation about sustainability and durability. Many indicators based on Africa rising point to improved living conditions based on improved access to health, education, clean water, and declining mortality. However, poverty is still at a staggering level. Per capita income growth has not kept pace with the rest of the world except for the very fastest growing. And this is, by the way, in fact, due to declining infant mortality, which is positive, and population growth. And so Africa actually has become the youngest region of the world with challenges and opportunities, with the resultant opportunities for exploitation of youth dividend, and challenges for coping with what I call the youth curse. So along with this are rising income gaps. So large segments of populations have been left out of the growth process. So this is a rationale for this inclusive growth and job creation. Now, the growth has actually resulted into well-paying jobs, but only a third of African population occupies those good jobs. So there are actually millions stuck in unemployment and equally important underemployment, a large component of underemployment being attributed to subsistence farming. The question is, what will the role of AERC be? As AERC has successfully and effectively participated in the contribution to Africa rising through capacity building and fostering informed policy over the last 25 years, now it is well positioned to participate and contribute also to the next agenda of inclusive growth and job creation, through again with our core business of capacity building. Now, which means moving forward, there is a parallel business that should be centered around inclusive capacity building. Along with areas that are complementary and enabling, such as financial inclusion, technology adaptation, and market access, the thematic research has been reviewed, and one of the key recommendations that has come up is very consistent with this agenda of inclusive growth and job creation, the idea of having a focus theme on agriculture, climate change, and natural resource management. Now, just a couple of words about this plenary conference. The plenary conference is usually featured along with the biennial research workshop. The whole idea is to bring thought leaders from around the globe to speak on an issue of contemporary policy interest. And this year, we have been fortunate to get thought leaders on the issue of public finance, taxes and expenditure reforms. And this is also an opportunity to expose our researchers before they get started with the biennial to global best practices. So today's topic of public finance has generated a great deal of interest among academics and policymakers. Quite an appropriate topic at this time for Africa in view of the need for revenue management, from discovery of resources and tax policies for revenue enhancement, as well as fostering the desirable incentive for allocation of resources. So I'm going to conclude here, and I'm going to hand over now to Ernest to introduce our chief guest. Thank you very much.